Today's session is all about, it's very simply titled, Is Anyone Even Seeing My Emails? This is just such an important season in terms of the emails that you send for your business, because the holiday season is right around the corner. Black Friday and Cyber Monday are enormous email sending times. And your businesses might have offers that are really, really timely, either for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or for the entire holiday gift-giving season. And that just means that the number of emails working through email marketing platforms and business automation platforms are ballooning to enormous numbers that are just different from the rest of the year. So the information that Adrian is going to share with us today is important every month, every week, all year long. If you send emails using a broadcasting system or an automation system or a transactional system, it's always important, but things get a little hairier. I think I hear Adrian use the word hairier pretty frequently. Things get hairier, especially at this time of year. So we wanted to use this time to unpack that with you and explore some of the things that we need to get done before holiday season. So just as we're getting started here, if you're in the chat and you have a Black Friday, Cyber Monday offer, or you're particularly worried about this sending season, just let us know what you're working on in the chat. And it might help to just keep us excited and also see some context or hear some context of what emails you are getting prepared to send. If you can just go ahead and share that in the chat. Okay, without any further rambling from me, let's talk about Adrian. Adrian is our special guest speaker today. Adrian is the co-founder of emailsmart.com, and I constantly refer to Adrian as the world's leading expert in helping people get their emails into the inboxes. Let's get it at least to the recipient's platform, and then make sure that it doesn't go to spam, and then try our best to make sure it doesn't go to promotions, and so on, so that we can get it into the inbox where our prospects and customers are most likely to read them. And calling Adrian the world's leading expert in this is not hyperbole. I know that when people have trouble, when people have problems getting things to the mailboxes, Adrian comes in and rescues people. So whether we're, proactively getting things ready or fixing things that have gone wrong, Adrian is the guy who people go to for help with that. Adrian, I hope that quick introduction did you some justice. Do you have anything you want to share about your nerdiness, your email life?
Thank you so much, Wayne. Yeah, you can't have a much better intro than that, to be honest. So I appreciate that. It is true, sadly. Most of my clients come to me when it's too late. They come to me when their email open rate has just dropped from 50% down to 3%, and Google's slammed them in jail. My greatest challenge is always, well, if I could have got to people sooner, if I could have got them to understand what they needed to know before the horrible thing happened and people stopped hearing them, then everything would have been so much easier. Because, it's the challenge that we face is this is not a sexy subject. I love it because I'm a nerd. You guys love it because you understand the importance of it. The people on today's session understand the importance of it. I think the challenge that we've got is there's the 97% of people that don't come to sessions like this and don't understand it. And then when it's all too late, they've inadvertently done something that's upset Google. And the next thing they know, no one's seeing their emails. And it's like, Evan, who's my great friend and co-founder of Email Smart based in Las Vegas, he's got a saying where he says, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? And it's similar, when your mic went off at the start of this session, it's like no one could hear you. And emails not getting through is exactly the same as that. So it's almost a perfect kind of prop. Anyone think we'd done this on purpose or something? But if people can't hear you, then you're not going to get attendees to webinars. You're not going to sell your stuff. You're not going to make a difference. So, email is still the best channel by far to make sales. Social media is great. You can get engagement. You can make sales. But if you upset Facebook or Instagram or TikTok and the algorithm blocks you, you've had it. And yes, you can still get into trouble with email, as I've just alluded, but it is always within your own gift to fix it. Whereas if you upset Facebook and they shadow ban you or they kick you off the platform, that's it. You've got to start from scratch. So email really matters, and I just really want to make sure everyone understands how easy it can be to stay on the right side of Google, how easy it can be to actually get much better results than maybe you're getting at the moment. And as you said, Black Friday is coming. Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, the big giants of the email world, they are going to turn their spam filters up off the scale. Everybody knows that the volume of email around Black Friday is absolutely crazy. And the only way the mailbox providers can cope and make sure that their users get a good experience is by filtering out as much as what they see as the garbage as possible. And it doesn't matter if we think what we're sending is the best thing in the world. If Google doesn't like it, you're not going to get through. So I think today what we need to talk about is how to make sure that you know what Google needs to see and how to get through. Simple as that.
Absolutely. That's a great introduction. Thank you for all of that. And Greg joined us. Hey, Greg. Speaking of co-founder or founder word written up on the screen, I think this is kind of cool to do these introductions because the registrations for this event are about a third of people from emails from Adrian's email list, about a third from our email list, and about a third of people who signed up discovering us in other ways. So I think introductions all around make a ton of sense here. Greg, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, obviously I've known Adrian. We're friends for a long time. I did start Monkey Pod, which Cameron now leads. And I just believe in the importance of this topic. And I know it is increasingly important, both from a technical and permission perspective, but also from an ownership understanding perspective. Because I think this is a space where a lot of businesses assume that they're already doing everything, or that it's being taken care of for them. And I find that the more you're able to engage in these conversations, the more that you can identify things that you thought were being done or you thought were outside of your control, that you can actually put your hands on and make improvements to with real world results for your email and marketing efforts. And that to me is it's finding an extra, $20 bill in your winter jacket when you realize you've been doing yourself a disservice. And all we're talking about here is taking away the unnecessary friction so that you are getting, the full extent of your marketing effort. I love writing email copy, but the truth is, right, it's only as effective as my ability to get it in front of the people who that email copy can serve. And so if some portion of your audience is missing your message, then it doesn't matter how compelling your product is, how deep your discount is, how persistent your follow-up is. All of that is hamstrung if you don't have these infrastructure things in place. And Adrian is the best in the business when it comes to helping walk people through that conversation. So I wanted to make sure that I was here to lend some support and to listen and learn.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here, Greg. I'll do the quick introduction of me. Cameron, I am the producer and director of all the things that happen over here at Monkey Pod, along with our team, Greg and Jade. And we provide education, strategy, best practices, and a really great community called the OG membership, or the Grove, for those who know, they know, where we help people with automation every day. Our community is a very active place where people are posting, questions about products. They're posting Loom videos of the automations they're trying to build. And our community of experts and peers get to help people out there inside of the Monkey Pod membership. So hosting that community is a huge part of what I do and what we do here at Monkey Pod. I also own an automation agency. And I think what's really interesting about talking about Adrian, just knowing, so much and being the nerd who lives this all the time, I'm curious to know if there are automation agency owners here on the stream, because we know more than most, but not as much as the pure pro, right? If your job is to build automations all day long, you can know that you have email deliverability requirements or challenges or successes, and you can know how to set them up, and you can be miles ahead of the average marketer or the average business owner, but still only have it be 5 or 10% of your job. And that's why I really enjoy getting to get deeper into this with Adrian. Okay, couple of engagement notes here. If you happen to be be seeing this somewhere that's not the live Riverside platform, you can join us here live. If it happens to be between noon and 1 o'clock on October 21st, you're welcome to jump in live. If you're watching the replay, obviously we're not going to be here, but that's where we are right now. And if you're here in Riverside, we would love to have you chat over on the right. Anything that feels good to you, that you want to talk about, that you have a question about, that resonates with you, go ahead and put that in the chat. Okay, with all of those introductions started, we have an item for you here, which is a checklist. It's a checklist that has not been shared before. It is specifically for this webinar, and it is a document that you can take with you that is a list of things to do right now before holiday season. Whether you've done nothing and you don't know anything about email deliverability, this checklist will be helpful. And even if you think you've got your settings dialed in really, really nicely, we still want you to take a look at this this checklist, because it's a great reminder and kind of refocus on the things that need to happen before the insane traffic of holiday season comes up. So the short link to this is mopod.co/October, sorry, it's not October, OCT 21 worksheet. If you want to just go ahead and type that into your browser, you will get your very own copy of the worksheet that Adrian shared with us today. The middle part of the webinar today is going to be to talk about the items inside of this worksheet. We're just going to have a little conversation interview with Adrian. And then at the end, we have a couple of different items to share with you around the Monkey Pod membership, around a brand new course that we have that we co-created with Adrian, and also some reminders of our upcoming events. So let's make sure we'll save 10 minutes at the end to go through some of those housekeeping items. Let's just start with, you mentioned it a little bit, but why is this timely now? And what about what we're doing now relates to the entire year as well, right? Like, these aren't just good things for holiday seasons, but they're extra important things for holiday seasons. Can you just fill us in on why this conversation is timely on October 21st?
Yeah, sure. At the end of the day, the world of email is dominated by Google, Microsoft, Yahoo. They typically control 80% of the world's mailboxes that you and I all communicate with. And most of those subscribers aren't paying a penny to Google, Microsoft, or Yahoo. The way those companies make money is by advertising. And if you send emails that don't get opened, they don't make money because they can't display the ads. So the first thing to remember is that Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo are going to favor the people that make them the most money by getting the most emails opened. And beyond that, there are other rules and guidelines. Some of them are published and some of them are not published, that Google and Co. put in place. And the closer you stick to those rules and guidelines, the more likely you are to get your emails land in the inbox. And that applies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months a year. That is always there. But the challenge that we face is not only do Google and Co. have to make money, but they also want to retain as many of their users as possible. So the way that they do that is to try and give them a very good email experience. And that means they've got to filter out all the garbage that people don't want to see. And they've got to allow through the messages that people do want to see. And if that isn't reliable enough, people will stop using Gmail and they'll switch to Outlook, or they'll switch from Outlook to Yahoo or whatever. So they've got a very tough balancing act to do to make sure that they can give their users a good experience and they can still make lots of money. And I would say that the majority of the things needed to tick both of those boxes lead to the same set of rules and requirements, because all of this is around the better you get at sending the emails to the people that want to see them, the more you are going to be rewarded by Google and Co., which means that the more likely your emails are to land in the inbox, and the more likely people are to open them and buy your stuff. And then obviously during holiday period, everyone and his mother, brother, sister, father, everybody, every business out there pretty much is sending some kind of Black Friday promo. And that means that the volume of emails at this time of year really goes off the scale. And that means that Google and Microsoft and Yahoo have to work even harder than ever to make sure that there's a good mailbox experience for their users. And the only way they can do that is to become even more aggressive than normal with their spam filters. So that means that if you're kind of following a few of the rules, but not all of them, you might get away with that most of the year. When it comes to this time of year, particularly in the kind of week or two leading up to Black Friday, as the email volume goes up and immediately afterwards, then you're suddenly going to find that unless you are squeaky clean and following every rule to the letter, that's when your emails might end up going in spam more often than usual, or they might end up in promotions where they haven't in the past and things like that. And you might find your open rates dip, your engagement drops, your click-through rates go down. And all this is just because you haven't necessarily changed anything. It's just that Google and Co. have had to become more aggressive at this time of year.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about engagement and re-engagement in just a minute, but it's interesting that not only does the global sending of emails go up, but I imagine that somebody's personal, a small business owner's personal email behavior might also go up, right? You might be on a 2 email a month cadence, or you might have a welcome sequence that somebody went through a year and a half ago when they joined your list or when they bought a first product from you. And now you're excited to go out and sell something, and you're going to shock the system with, 2 or 3 times more emails because you're excited for the offer that you're creating this year. So we'll talk about engagement and the shock of number of emails that Google's dealing with or Office 365 is dealing with, but also that you just might be contributing to that in an abnormal type of behavior as well. And I really like the idea of framing the inbox experience where, hey, if you've got a product that your customer is actually really excited to read about, or an offer or some news that they're excited to read about, and then they open it, Google then has the opportunity to either show an advertisement to a free user or retain a workspace user who feels like the company's having a good experience because of this filter. So to think about it from the perspective of, Google wanting to monetize email is actually a really helpful way to think about that. Now, just before we get into item 1 on the checklist, you mentioned responsibility earlier in the conversation. It seems to me that the platforms, and we're not being really specific about platforms today. We'll show some maybe examples of some specific ones, but this is true whether you're using Klaviyo or MailChimp or Keep or ActiveCampaign or Go High Level, right? Like these things, right? The way Google and Office 365 and Yahoo receive those messages and interpret whether those messages are spam promotion or really high quality is essentially the same, right? They don't really care that much, maybe other than IPs and things like that. But like the experience that they're trying to create is the same, whether that email is coming from, like, is it Klaviyo or ActiveCampaign or high level or whatever, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing to note is 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the platform you sent your emails from made a huge impact on whether the emails got seen or not. But in this day and age, the only real thing that makes an impact is, was this email sent on a one-to-one platform? Like, did it go from Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 as an individual user to an individual recipient? Or did it go from a bulk email platform like the ones you've mentioned to a whole raft of people all at the same time? And if you want to be as sure as possible of your email getting through, send them one at a time manually, because those always get treated with priority by Google and Co.
It's a fascinating idea, right? Because if it's like, here's your access to our $50,000 item and there's only 15 people on our list who are qualified to buy it, that might actually be a really good reason to not automate, right? But
yeah, if you've got high ticket things, then yeah, very much so. If you've got quality rather than quantity, make it personal. But that's not realistic for most people. And at that point, then it doesn't matter which platform you're using, to be honest. As long as you're not using some 2-cent platform that's just been created in a back room somewhere. If it's a reputable platform like all the ones you mentioned and many more, then it doesn't really matter what platform you're using anymore. And all those ads where someone's saying, was it ActiveCampaign has 98% deliverability, then I'm calling BS on that right now, because no one is better or worse than anyone else in this space anymore. They all have their good times, they all have their bad times. It doesn't really matter. It is just the fact that, unless a bad actor has got loose on a particular platform and caused short-term problems for that platform, they're all going to be treated the same by Google and co. And it doesn't really matter anymore. I've heard people saying, oh, I've just switched from this platform to this platform and my deliverability improved. And I look at their numbers, it's like, no, it didn't really.
It's just different, but not better. I think that it's also really important to note too, and I learned this from you a couple of years ago, that Google has all of the AI power in the world. So just because, it feels like a one-to-one email, maybe you use GMass or something like that, so it feels like a one-to-one email, they know. They see the same subject line or a modification of the same subject line delivered 1,000 times. They see on aggregate how many times your domain, your IP address, your whatever got marked spam or didn't get engaged with, right? So just because they're not telling us doesn't mean they are, applying their enormous analytical power to what they do know about the various mailboxes that receive your message, right?
Google's view of the email world is unparalleled. They can see probably half the emails that are going through the world, and absolutely, if every single pattern out there that can be picked up on, they will be picking up on it somehow. And like you say, whether it's the email signature, the subject line, the domain, you could send from 10 different domains, but if the message you're sending is similar enough, Google will join the dots and they will say, hey, this person's trying to game the system, and slap them down.
Absolutely. Okay, I have one more thing about responsibility in companies before we get into this re-engagement idea, which is number one on the list. And that is maybe a handful of people attending the webinar today, I'll have to go look at the participant list, have received a not kind notice from their email sending platform, whether that's an email or whether that's a banner or a dashboard that's turned red. Those companies, they want to keep your monthly fees. They don't want to lose you as a customer, but they also don't want to lose their ability to have a good relationship with all of their customers, right? So, to what extent is it the marketing platform's job to get the email out? I don't want to say that they have zero responsibility or 100% responsibility. Where do you think that partnership between your sending platform and your own hygiene meet?
It really is a partnership, and I tell you, I'm connected with quite a few of the postmasters and email compliance people at the various email marketing platforms out there, and I would not have their job for $10 million a year, to be honest, because they have got a really tough job to do. As you said, they've got to make sure that they are doing their bit to get their emails through. And unfortunately, there is always a very small percentage of people who don't want to follow the rules, who do want to try and basically game the system or just send a load of garbage out or send outright spam, and try and get away with sending it through something like MailChimp or Klaviyo or whatever else. And if they get through, what will happen is Google will see that MailChimp or Klaviyo or whoever has sent a whole load of messages that were marked as spam. And in the short term, Google might actually start filtering those platforms more than usual. So as the postmaster at MailChimp, Klaviyo or whatever, then their job is to stop all the bad guys from sending the bad stuff, while at the same time making sure everything else gets through, and also recognizing that a lot of the things people do that seem bad are just because they don't know any better. So they've got a compliance job to do, they've got a re-education job to do, but they can't go fire all the bad actors because maybe they lose lots of revenue. So there's a huge balancing act they've got to do, and it's a really tough one.
And with that, the spam is in the eye of the beholder, right? There's a story I think I told recently. MonkeyPod, we film a lot of trainings, which we'll talk about later on in this seminar. We film a lot of trainings, which means that we have a mobile studio. We actually have 2 mobile studio kits that we take to places. And the road cases that we use for those have 2 target markets. They have a target market for camera people, and they have a target market for gun people. And when I, purchased these cases through Shopify, with camera inserts and not gun inserts, they didn't segment me, right? They put me into their entire marketing list, and I have not marked them as spam. I've just unsubscribed, but I did spend a little bit of time feeling like those emails weren't for me. So I think it's a really interesting example. The gun emails weren't for me. Well, the camera ones was an interesting example of, spam is in the eye of the beholder. I honestly didn't even know
Yeah.
their website was so well segmented that I didn't know they were in both businesses.
Wow.
Because I was looking for camera cases, but their email list was not segmented particularly well. And I thought that was an interesting kind of point there. Okay, let's talk about the actual checklist. Hopefully everybody on the live stream today has downloaded their copy of the checklist. The first item on the checklist is to re-engage your older contacts, right? So unengagement means that they haven't done a variety of things and it's been maybe a long time, right? Maybe they were a great customer when they signed up for a course, or a great customer when they bought that camera case for airplanes, or they were a great customer. And then time has gone on and engagement has waned. Can you just talk a little bit about engagement and then the work required to re-engage effectively?
Because if you look at the checklist, then actually there's a lot of kind of crossover between the points, to be fair, but they apply in different ways. Because, we've already talked about staying on the right side of Google, sending the emails that are most likely to be seen, that kind of thing. And the problem is, as Black Friday approaches, a lot of marketers seem to lose their common sense. And they suddenly think, hey, I'm going to send these emails to the 20,000 folks that haven't opened anything from me in the last 12 months, because maybe they're going to start opening my emails just because it's Black Friday. And unfortunately, that doesn't ever happen. One of the tools that I've created is called the point of no return report, and it actually looks at what is the percentage likelihood of someone opening an email when they haven't engaged for 5 days, 10 days, 30 days, a year, and so on. And once you get beyond about 20 days, it's about one chance in 100,000 that someone's going to open an email from you.
Sorry, can you just say that one more time to put a fine point on it? How many days did you say moves you to 1 in 100,000?
It's up to about 20 days. If you go beyond 20 days now, then the chance of opening something from you ever again are next to nothing. And that has changed. If we go back 5 years, then it was more like 30 or 60 days where people were still reactivating after that. But for the majority of email lists that I've analysed with this, then it's less than 20 days before people fall off forever.
Right.
So if you're going to take your old email list and suddenly mail everyone who's not opened anything for the last year and do it on Black Friday, then that's the worst possible thing you can do. And actually, the really sensible thing to do is to dial it right back during the holiday period so that your open rates are artificially boosted. We'll come back and talk about that. But that means that you need to make sure you've kept things clear as long as possible in advance. So here we are now, 5 weeks or something like that from Thanksgiving?
November 28th is Black Friday.
There we go. So five and a bit weeks, I think, if my math is right. So in an ideal world, you want to be sending squeaky clean mails at least 4 weeks before. So that means we've got about a week here to go and try and re-engage people. Now, it's not necessarily going to work very well, but if you're going to do it, now is the time to do it. In an ideal world, what you want to be doing is automatically waking people back up when it gets to about 2 to 4 weeks when they haven't opened from you, and do that automatically all the way through the year. But if you haven't done that, and you're just thinking, oh gosh, I needed to have one quick go, then if you're listening to this on November 1st, please don't start re-engaging your old list at that point, because the impact of that will affect your reputation long enough that you might not do very well when Black Friday comes around. So it's very important to make sure you do things like re-engaging and opening up and mailing unengaged contacts a long way before the promos start.
I really like that you put in the worksheet for today, now or never, and I've expanded upon that the week before Black Friday, when everyone's doing it, means that you're already in the noise and you're already going to be tracked the wrong way in the algorithm. I imagine that 20-day thing has some nuance, right? Like if you're maybe like an insurance salesperson and there's a renewal period, or if you're, I'm sure there's some nuance to that, but in general, these people who are sending lots, I think that 20-day number is really fascinating. And it sounds like there's a balance here where you're not saying 20 days, point of no return, delete them, because we'd all have tiny lists if that was the case.
Totally.
But you are comfortable with re-engaging. Who are you comfortable with re-engaging? And are you comfortable with, are you giving a simple offer? Are you calling it out? Hey, we haven't heard from you and we really want you to stay on our list, but we don't need you to if it's not of value. Like, what is a comfortable group to maybe, again, lots of nuance, I'm sure, but do you have something in your mind about the window and then also the approach, the message of that re-engagement?
It depends on what's been happening. It's like, I think it was maybe 18 months ago, I realized that I absolutely screwed up segmentation in my own email database, and I stopped mailing a bunch of people even though they hadn't disengaged. And on top of that, I also had people who had disengaged. And I thought, well, you know what? I had stopped mailing the disengaged people anyway because my automation stopped it. I'd also messed up. So I thought, I'm actually going to take a reasonably high calculated risk and actually mail a bunch of people who I haven't mailed for months and months and months and haven't opened anything for months and months and months. And it did impact my email performance for a little while after that. But I think I did, I've got the numbers here, I think, actually. Let me have a look. So out of around 6,000 people that I mailed, I got around 1,000 people to open that email, people that I hadn't mailed for a long time and people that hadn't engaged.
So the timeliness and the message could still help in that regard of re-engaging. Right. So that right. Right. Yeah. So deciphering if they were previously engaged is actually kind of useful as opposed to just unengaged for a variety of reasons. So let's just wrap up item one because we're moving through our. I'm sometimes long-winded, and we're moving through our time quickly here. Just to put a point on item one before we move to item two, Jim has asked, what if your regular communication rhythm is a monthly broadcast? And I imagine, Adrian, I'll let you answer, but I imagine that the answer is that the proof is in the data, or the truth is in the data, right? If you're in an industry with an audience who's really enjoying a monthly newsletter, then your engagement is fine. But if you if that's what you prefer to do, but people are becoming unengaged, then it's not fine, right? The proof is in your personal data. Do you want to just answer that question, and then we'll move on to question two?
In this day and age, then there are very few audiences that won't tolerate at least a weekly cadence. And with AI and things like that, it's much easier to create content than it used to be. All the data I've ever collected shows that you are going to lose far more people by only mailing monthly than by mailing weekly. If you're only doing it once a month, then ideally increase the cadence if you can. If there's reasons you can't, then you've just got to basically, how do you make the re-engagement email look any different from a normal newsletter? I guess that's the question. You've got to have some kind of good offer in there, some kind of extra bit of amazing content or some kind of freebie or discount or something. You've got to catch people's attention. But the more frequently you email in general, then the better results you're going to get pretty much across the board.
Thanks for all that. Let's move on to number two, Google Postmaster Tools. I'm going to make a huge assumption about both business owners and marketing nerds, is that they're all underutilizing all of Google, whether it's Google Analytics or Google Looker Studio. And I imagine in the email world, it's no different. Google Postmaster Tools. What is Postmaster Tools? And the biggest question I have is, can all businesses use it, or do you have to be a certain size sender to use it? If you could give us both. What is it, and who can actually use it?
Okay, so the simple one is anyone sending bulk emails should be able to use Postmaster Tools. If you're sending more than a few hundred emails, if you're sending emails to more than a few hundred people, then you should be able to use Postmaster Tools and get a level of data out of it. And then the more you email, then the more data you're going to get. But the beauty of Postmaster Tools is it tells you how people are behaving on the Gmail platform. The most important report on there is the spam rate report, because Google do not send spam complaints back to your email marketing platform. So even if Keep or MailChimp or Klaviyo or whatever is saying you had a 0.01% spam rate, it's not reporting anything from anyone using Gmail or Google Workspace on your email list, because Google does not send that information back. The only way you can see how many people are reporting your emails for spam in the Google ecosystem is by looking at Postmaster Tools.
If you're not a email marketing pro, if you're maybe a business owner or an inside copywriter inside of a company, is this something that you put on your calendar once a week, once a month? When do you check Postmaster Tools?
If you're doing a launch, you need to check it every day to see what's happening. So the downside with Google Postmaster Tools is the data is normally about 48 hours behind. So that doesn't always make it easy to kind of change things on the fly when you're doing a launch, but it's still a very good early warning system. And if you're not in launch mode, then you should check it, once a week, maybe definitely once a month, just to make sure that you are not getting too many spam complaints. The other thing that I'll mention quickly is that Google have brought out a new version of Postmaster Tools, and on October 31st, they're retiring the old version. And sadly, when they retire the old version on October 31st, they're going to take away my best ever sales pitch, because on the old versions of the reports, if you haven't done this yet, I would implore you to check it before they take it away. You can see what Google thinks of your domain reputation. And it's either high, medium, low, or bad. And you can see that historically for the past 120 days. And if you have a low or a bad reputation, most of your emails are going to be landing in the spam folder in Google. If you go high, then that's great. If it's medium, then that's Google saying, hey, you need to clean your act up a bit. But they're taking that away, unfortunately. So the only thing we will be able to see going forward are things like, what is the rate of spam complaints? Is our email authentication set up correctly? Is encryption set up correctly? And things like authentication and encryption, they should be handled by our email marketing platform. The main thing we need to look out for is the spam rate, and also have a very good compliance status that says, are you doing all the things that Google have said are important? Again, a lot of those things are your email platform, but things like authentication is up to you. The spam rate is up to you. And those are the two main things going forward that we're going to have to keep an eye on inside Google, because we can't look at Google domain reputation anymore. But Google has said very clearly, if you go above 0.3% spam complaint rate, they are going to block your emails.
Got it. So I just went to postmaster.google.com. It wants me to give it a domain. It then is going to give me some authentication information. So I have to have access to my registrar to put some, secret information in there so it can know I'm a reputable user of that domain. And then as soon as that happens, it's going to start populating this information for us, right?
Yeah.
Is that straightforward for people?
And you will probably get retrospective data as well. So if you've been sending emails for a while, then it should show you what they've already been collecting about you, because they're collecting this data whether you look at it or not, because that's how they're deciding if they're going to let your stuff through.
That's great. Let's again, audience out there, if you have questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat. You're welcome to dial in anything you'd like to do. I'll keep watching it. With that, let's go on to number 3. And that's, we've just talked a lot about reputation on Google, which Google is going to expose to you using Postmaster Tools. And while we like to think that Google is the analogy for all platforms, there is Office 365, there is free Hotmail, there is Yahoo, and I'm sure a handful of people using bespoke systems depending on where in the world they are, right? So, or the type of organization they work for. So can we talk about new contact engagement, which is part of number 3 on your checklist, new contact engagement and how that might help you understand your reputation across Google and more?
Yeah, totally. And now that Google are taking away a direct report of reputation, then this metric that most people don't even consider is the best way of understanding where you stand with all the mailbox providers. And it's quite a good canary in the coal mine, if you remember that analogy. If you see your performance suddenly drop off for one particular mailbox provider, and Microsoft are normally the first one to go, then that tells you, oh, hang on, I've done something a little bit dumb here, and maybe I need to clean that up before Google follows suit and also block me. But what we're able to do is we can infer what our reputation is with Google based on how Google treats our new contacts. Because if someone's been on your email list for a while, Google have watched their habits, and they will decide to deliver the emails to the inbox or the spam based on the behavior of that person. So if you're on my email list, Cam, and you ignore all my emails, then the emails that I send to you will end up in spam. Whereas if Greg is opening every single email that I send, then my emails to Greg will still get delivered, even though yours are going to spam. So it's very much a personalized experience. But then, supposing Jade signs up for the first time to the Email Smart list, because Google hasn't got any of her past behavior to go on, they're just going to say, well, we think Email Smart is kind of okay, so we're going to put that into the inbox. But if, on the other hand, everyone was behaving like you rather than Greg, then Google might think, hey, people don't like Email Smart, so Jay's just signed up and they've sent her an email, and I'm going to put that straight into spam because no one else likes them. So that reputation is already being measured based on everyone else's behavior. So what we can do, as long as you've got enough new contacts signing up, then we can say, okay, in the last month, then we've had 500 people using a Google address sign up. We've had 60% of those have opened something. Therefore, that's kind of okay. We want to aim for about 80%, but if it's down in kind of 20, 30, 40, 50%, then we know that it's not as good as it could be. And if we see that, say, 80% of Google people are opening 80% of new Google subscribers are opening, but only 30% of Microsoft new subscribers are opening, then we can deduce from that Microsoft are upset with us and we need to work out why and maybe tighten things up there.
Yeah. So that new contact engagement report, that is kind of definitely widened my thinking of why one would use that. And I did notice in the checklist, but if people are interested in their new contact engagement report, there are free things that you can do at Email Smart, like get your Smart Score, but also this is a paid report, but you said you would expose the first copy or whatever of that paid report if people want to get a baseline of where they're at. So that's all covered here inside of the checklist for today. I have not thought about using the new contact engagement report that way. So that's a really fascinating insight to me. Okay, let's do number 4, keeping your engagement management tight. So platforms have engagement capabilities built in, right? Whether that's the platform saying, change somebody when they're at 30 days or 90 days, or whether that's a tool like Email Smart, tagging people 0 to 7, 7 to 14, like getting more granular. Could you just talk a little bit about the granularity that somebody might want to have in their engagement management?
In most cases, I would keep it nice and simple and say, in an ideal world, we want to send the vast majority of our emails to the folks that have opened something in the last 30 days and clicked on something in the last somewhere between 6 and 12 months. If you've got someone that's opening all your emails, but they've never, ever clicked anything, then I'd still treat that as suspicious, because if they've never clicked anything, that means they've not even downloaded your lead magnets. They've not come to any of your events. And remember that although open reporting is kind of a little bit flaky, click reporting is pretty accurate. Occasionally you might get some false positives, but mostly if it says someone's clicked, then they've clicked. If it says someone has never clicked, they have never clicked. You can pretty much trust that 100%. So be very suspicious of those folks. And it is, we want to mail the people who are most likely to open something, and you are most likely to open something if you opened something else recently. So that's what we'll stick to. And we can, yes, the Smart Score lets you monitor how well you're doing, but even if you don't check the Smart Score, just go into your email platform and work out how to identify your most recently engaged people. Almost everything can do it. If you're using Kit, formerly known as ConvertKit, you have my commiserations, because there is no way of identifying who's clicked and who hasn't, unless you set up an automation inside every email you send. So, I'll call Kit out for being basically the enemy of all people who want to get their emails delivered. But outside of that, most other platforms either have a manual report, you can automate it, and just go in and set something up, because 90% of people don't. If you set up your email engagement management correctly, you are doing something most people aren't, and you are going to stand out in the inbox. I'm
a notorious non-clicker. I read more emails than I'll ever click on. But I do think that that's a good, framing, that it's a little bit of both. Of course, they're not going to click every single email that you send. But 100% opens with 0% clicks probably means it's platform or something that's opening those things, where a healthy open with a couple of clicks is a really clear example of real human behavior. So I like the idea of putting timelines on both opens and clicks separately. I think I haven't really thought about framing it that way as you just have. I think that number 5 is kind of a culmination of a lot of advice you've already given. But I do think that it's interesting to pull it out really, really specifically. So everyone's list size is different. It's relative. Their engagement is different. But let's say you have a list of 50,000 people. Maybe it's not even that big. Maybe it's 5,000 people. Here we are 5.5 weeks before. Maybe you're emailing, all 5,000 of your engaged folks. And maybe you're not going to delete the ones that don't open during this re-engagement period, but you might actually want to exclude them from that highest traffic time that's coming up, right? So use the warming data that you're getting right now, or the re-engagement data that you're getting right now, to decide who your Black Friday, Cyber Monday segment actually is. I imagine that's so counterintuitive to people, where you'd usually think, oh, it's my biggest promotion, I'm going to send it to my biggest segment. Really, it's your biggest promotion with the highest amount of competition and traffic. Send it to your most engaged narrow segment. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you've absolutely nailed it. If people aren't seeing or opening your emails in the 3 months before Black Friday, they sure as heck aren't going to do it on Black Friday itself. So, Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And it's like, why would we do that?
I'm much like the people who we don't want on our customers list, where when it comes to Black Friday week, I'm probably going to do a lot of, command clicking down the list and purging real fast, because I get exhausted at that particular time. Okay. Audience members who are here with us live, of course, some of you aren't here live. You're going to see it on replay later on. We're just going to take a look at Veronica's question here. Veronica asks, would you be willing to repeat that guideline? Was it emailing to those who have opened within the last 30 and clicked within the last 6 to 12 months? Did I get that correctly? Everyone is probably different depending on what you send and what you sell, but that is the guideline that Adrian shared a moment ago. So thanks for asking, Veronica. I know we've thrown a lot of information out there in terms of numbers real fast, so thank you for asking. While we wait for any other questions or dial-ins to happen here, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of things all at once here. The first is that I just want to give a little plug for the MonkeyPod membership. If you want to hang out with people like me, with people like Adrian, if we have any OG members in the chat and you want to give a little please join testimonial, we'd love to see that. But if you actually want to hang out with us and be able to, show us a Loom video of what you're working on, or ask for, how a particular product or service works, or think about automation strategy, the OG membership is where those conversations happen every single day. It's a paid community that you can access. We all meet up on Facebook. So if you're a Facebook user or can at least tolerate it, you can post your videos, your questions, your inspiration all up there onto the MonkeyPod membership. To get directly to that page on our website, you go to ogmembership.com. And then the next thing, there's so many links. I have a slide at the end of this with all of the links if we're going too fast through the links, and we're also going to email them out. So don't stress if you missed the hyperlink there. I wanted to do this webinar because Black Friday, Cyber Monday is coming up soon, and it's really important to get these things right. I also wanted to host it because Adrian very generously co-created a full-length MonkeyPod course with us. We got, I don't know if you can tell from the accents, I'm Canadian. Adrian is over in England. We were able to meet up in real life at a US destination and film this full-length featured course that covers Adrian's SMART framework. It talks about your authentication, your reputation, your content, all of these types of things that help to make a good foundation of email sending are covered in this course. And you on the webinar today will be the very first people to know that it exists. We just finished editing it and producing it like truly, days or weeks ago. So you can get directly to that page on our website here, mopod.co/email. And then with all of these links, two more things. Our very own Greg Jenkins, founder of MonkeyPod, he produced an online course for us probably like 7 years ago called The One Conversation, that is all about how to decide what the next automation priority is in your business. And Greg has agreed to do this live with us, a version of The One Conversation, how to perform a diagnostic on your customer journey. That'll be November 12th at 3 p.m. Toronto to New York time, totally free of charge. And just like today, where we had one of our partners doing a showcase, Adrian from Email Smart, we have our friends from Fix Your Funnel coming to talk about SMS text messaging strategies and how to integrate video conversation starters, text message broadcasts, and so on into your business as well. So the sign up page for that will be up minutes after the webinar today. So I'll hang out for any more questions, but it's 1:03. If anybody needs to jump off or you feel satisfied, go ahead and say, goodbye in the chat, and we'll see you hopefully on the 12th and the 20th for our next 2 free live sessions.